I know, there are like 5,000 essays discussing open world design and how we are sick of it and how game X does it well while game Y doesn't and all that. I never click on any of those videos, but here I am, a hypocrite, asking you to watch my very own open world rant. Yes, I know, but I have stuff to get off my chest, and you're gonna hear it if you continue to watch the video, okay? I love open world games, but there's a catch. I feel like I get in two very different moods when it comes to them. There are some games where I immediately just want to clear outposts and spend hours doing busy work and other inane shit without a care in the world. However, there are games where it seems like the mere proposition of open world junk bugs the shit out of me. I experienced that somewhat in Horizon Forbidden West earlier this year and a lot in Valhalla a couple of months ago. Why though? Why would something that I thoroughly enjoy in stuff like Farcry or Just Cause bug me in other titles? Let's think about that for a moment. Well, I guess this dissonance is related to something I mentioned in my recent Yakuza ranking, which you should check if you haven't. We as gamers are lumping two very different open-world philosophies together in the same gaming genre, and that helps no one. For some titles, the open world is the be-all and end-all of the game, and you go in prepared for that and in the mood for that. That's what's going on in stuff like Far Cry, which, doesn't really have a narrative beyond ooga booga, kill bad dudes, clear map. When a game does have a rich narrative and lore, the open world gets in the way of that. Go no further than AC Odyssey. It's got a great narrative hook. I was immediately gripped and wanted to help Alexius find his mother. However, the huge size of the map and the sheer amount of bullshit in the game got in the way of that. AC used to be about its characters, its lore, and stealth in a densely populated map. Trying to turn AC into Far Cry while keeping the same type of narrative just dilutes the appeal of the game. Who cares if the map is ginormous and you can spend 50 hours clearing enemy bases? When it comes to AC, I don't see the purpose in that. Shouldn't I be trying to mend my relationship with Cassandra, or helping Phoebe and Marcus, or trying to solve whatever Lila has to solve in the 2020 storyline? I ended up resenting the open world stuff because it was getting in the way of what I wanted and expected out of the game. One thing got in the way of the other. The open world gameplay loop and the narrative pulled me in different directions while tearing Odyssey at the seams. And nothing needs to be said about the size of the map, it's ridiculous. Especially because, really, we don't even need a new map in every single installment to make an AC game compelling. That's why the fall of Monteriggioni is one of the best moments in AC history. We are revisiting a location in which we had invested a lot of time and money in a previous title. So when we see it crumble, it means something. But that's an oddity. It seems to me that studios generally feel like revisiting a map makes the game invalid for players somehow, even when it would make sense. It's weird. It made no sense to me why we didn't revisit Mother's Heart and barely did anything in Meridian in Horizon Forbidden West, for instance. I don't think anyone would have had a problem with that. After all, Forbidden West is a fresh new story in the same world as Zero Dawn. It almost felt as if Guerrilla Games was afraid of complaints of recycled assets or something. And really, if people complain about that, should you even care to listen? I feel like RGG titles are a perfect example of location revisiting done right, with their constant repetition of maps like Kamurocho, Sotenbori, and more recently Yokohama. Like, I'm currently playing Lost Judgment, and that game does not bring a single new area to Yakuza's repertoire. It reuses Kamurocho and Yokohama to tell its story, and I don't think a single player cares. Sure, we've seen Yokohama before, but through the eyes of Ichiban, who is a schizophrenic who thinks the street brawls he gets caught up in are Dragon Quest turn-based battles. When a hip detective like Yagami visits the same place, he's got a different perspective on it, and he'll also moan about Sao-sensei approximately 5,000 times while there. Reusing the map doesn't cheapen the game. Lost Judgment feels like a completely justified full-priced experience. On the other hand, stuff like Far Cry New Dawn, which wasn't even a full-price title at release, feels like a rehash that can't justify its own existence. That's because unlike Yakuza, Far Cry is about exploring and clearing the open world. So if we revisit the world, it feels cheap, like an expansion pack. It feels like I should be paying much less for it, and the excitement and the joy of exploration aren't really there. Inversely, Lost Judgment is exciting and full of mystery even with the rehashed worlds. That's because the world in RPG titles is there to serve as a background for a rich narrative, and the narrative in Lost Judgment is completely unrelated to the one in Yakuza 7, so no one in their right mind would complain about it. I think that's because we all instinctively know that even though both games are technically open world games, these are two different types of experiences and should be treated as so. One focused on narrative and the other on traversal and mechanics. RGG makes you love and care for a location. It gives their regions gravitas and a sense of history. I could straight up give you a tour of Kamurocho. Like, see this building here? There used to be a bar on the second floor and its mama got tangled up in Yakuza shit and she was murdered. See this spot here? It used to be this empty lot and there were some pretty tough gang wars back in the 80s because of it. There was also this big-ass explosion in the 2000s and money flew across the sky. It was crazy. I mean, you get the gist, right? This world is alive. It's tiny but alive. It is bursting with life. It reacts to you. It has a history of its own. And whenever you return to it, it feels like you are home. Compare that to England in AC Valhalla and laugh. Far Cry, on the other hand, is all about the expectation of what you might find in the open world, the joy of the unseen of what's yet to come. It's about the thrill of discovering everything there is to do in the map, clearing enemy camps, trying not to die when entering a zone which is clearly beyond your current abilities, and occasionally getting face to face with the big bad and having to hear his evil monologues. That's pretty much all there is to the game, and that's fine. No one in their right mind would pick up a Far Cry game expecting a dense plot full of twists that might devastate you when a beloved character dies or something. If it does happen, that's a great bonus, but a bonus nonetheless. So both of these design philosophies have clear goals and benefits, and if you pick a title like Yakuza or Far Cry, you know exactly what to expect. The problem lies with titles that try to do both of these things at the same time. Mixing deep narratives with open-ended exploration is not for everyone. That shit is hard. It's a high-risk, high-reward approach. You might end up with a classic like GTA 5 or The Witcher 3, and you can also fail spectacularly if the story you're telling doesn't really match the open-world design, like what happened with Final Fantasy 15. And it surprises me how more and more studios are trying out this mixed approach to open-world design. Even Naughty Dog has dipped their toes in open-world waters with The Last of Us Part 2 and Uncharted Lost Legacy, a move which didn't benefit these games at all and truly baffled me, because the studio's brand is so tied to intricate set pieces and clever level design that I just couldn't understand what they hoped to gain with this shift. Even more baffling is Ubisoft, which in the past few years has released some games that are truly lost. Early Assassin's Creed titles were great examples of this narrative-first open-world design, while early Far Cry is, to me, the epitome of the exploration-first approach. Trying to bridge the gap between these design philosophies resulted in mush for Ubisoft. But it's not just Ubi. I'm looking at you, Guerrilla. I adore the lore in Horizon. It's one of my favorite gaming universes right now. However, I like it in spite of bullshit missions about picking 3 flowers for some old lady, collecting craft materials, and having to ride mounts for 5 minutes between major story events. The Horizon games would work much better with smaller maps and a much more focused story. When playing Forbidden West, I tried to create sessions for myself focused exclusively on the main plot and other sessions just for side stuff so that I wouldn't get lost in the story. That's what I normally do with narrative-heavy open-world stuff, like Ghost of Tsushima or Red Dead Redemption 2. And I just couldn't because the distance between story missions was absurd. It was impossible to play the game as I wanted, so I had to mix the main missions with all the bullshit, and I always felt that the story was moving at a snail's pace because of this. games. These giant open worlds in Horizon or the RPG AC games are uncalled for. The time and the resources wasted on these could have been better allocated elsewhere. Maybe they could simply shorten these long-ass dev cycles and allow themselves to make more games. How about that? But back to Ubisoft, because really they don't get it. If Far Cry has a bigger map, that's great, because it means I'll have more game for my buck. The whole gameplay loop revolves around just that, clearing a map. If Assassin's Creed has a bigger map, like in Odyssey or Valhalla, that means I'll have more crap in the way of what actually matters to me, the story. That's why I don't mind having roughly 8 blocks to explore in Kamurocho and nothing more. It actually makes getting through the story easier. So yeah, we need to maybe come up with a different term to separate these two types of open world. You know what? Let's get vintage and bring back to the forefront the term sandbox. It absolutely works to describe stuff like Far Cry and Just Cause and the early 3D GTA titles. Let's use open world then to describe stuff that doesn't have separate levels and puts story first, while giving you an open world to navigate from meaty story mission A to meaty story mission B, like early AC and the RGG stuff. That could definitely help set expectations appropriately and avoid disappointments. The problem then really becomes games that are lost themselves, that are trying to be both things at the same time and sort of failing. As I said before, most can't do both well. Not everyone can be GTA 5 or The Witcher 3, and if you try to do that and fail, you can seriously hurt an otherwise amazing game, which to me is what happened to Horizon Forbidden West. And if you fail while making an already creatively bankrupt game like AC Valhalla, you get a disaster for the ages. And that's it, everyone. Do you agree with me? Should we try to distinguish sandboxes and open worlds? If you do, leave a like and comment down below. If you don't, well, please do the same regardless. See you next time.